Have I ever shown you my car? It transforms too. See? Nah, I'm just kidding. She's a 2014 Kia Forte. Her name's Sally. I just got her a couple months ago, actually. It's awesome to have a car of my own. Bumblebee. So Bumblebee is a spin-off, prequel, possibly a reboot of the Transformers film series. It's directed by Travis Knight, the director of Kubo and the Two Strings, and the CEO of Laika, which brought us movies like Coraline and Paranorman. This is his live-action directorial debut. Bumblebee takes place in 1987. We have Charlie Watson, just turned 18. She's kind of a tomboy, standoffish girl. She gets her first car, turns out it's a Transformer. And then the government finds out, and we have a couple of Decepticon bad guys who are on the hunt for Bumblebee. And now we have our movie, which is not as good as I hoped it would be, but still really good. First off, Charlie Watson, played by Haley Tolsky, as she will one day be known. I can dream, can't I? Haley Steinfeld. She does a really good job in this movie. To my shame, I still have not seen The Edge of 17 yet, but I know that she has acting chops, and she's great. I always gotta give props for someone who's interacting with something that's not there in real life. It makes me wonder, like, when she actually has to interact physically with Bumblebee, like, touch his face or something, like, what is she actually touching in real life? I don't know. Could be a tennis ball, could be a dude in a rubber suit. But she has to imagine it's this giant robot. That takes talent. She even has to squeak out a few tears every now and then. It's really impressive. As for the character of Bumblebee himself, I loved him. I mean, I've always loved Bumblebee. He's always been, like, well, I'd say he's always been my favorite Transformer, but Optimus Prime here is the man. But Bumblebee is great, you know, he doesn't know much about the human world, and so it is like the Iron Giant, which I've come to expect. You know, you have this connection that Charlie builds with Bumblebee. They grow really close, like Hogarth and the Iron Giant, and it builds up to a very touching story. I can't really say this movie is like the Iron Giant, I'll just say the movie reminded me of the Iron Giant quite a few times. There's a difference. There's enough of a difference in this movie to separate it from the Iron Giant completely that it's like, no, this is its own thing. Because you have a couple of bad guys that are Decepticons in this movie. Shatter and Dropkick. They do their job pretty well. I mean, they're not fleshed out villains by any means. They show up every now and then to cause problems. They work with the military, because John Cena gets a whiff of this stuff and he's like, nah, those Transformers are all bad guys. Let's get rid of them. I will say though, John Cena really impressed me. I didn't think he would, because ever since he became an internet meme, that's all I ever saw him as. And yeah, when he first showed up in this movie, all that was going through my mind was, John Cena! But as the movie went on, John Cena took his role really seriously, and again, I admire that. Like Patrick Wilson in Aquaman. It's always a pleasant surprise when a character that should not have as much depth as he has is taken seriously by the actor. So props to John Cena in this movie. I didn't think I'd be giving him props, but here I am giving him props. He is kind of the Kent Mansley-ish character, and he did a good job, what can I say? So with a great touching story and some really good main characters, the movie's not entirely perfect. There's still some leftover, like, dumb humor from the previous Michael Bay movies. I say leftover because that's what it felt like to me. Like, some of the supporting characters, like Charlie's family, came across as either annoying or not emotional enough. Like, her mother and stepfather have something in the movie that I wasn't really buying. Her younger brother was annoying as hell. And there's this dude whose name is Memo. His character's name is Memo in the movie. Is that a name? I don't know, but he kind of has a crush on her and he ends up tagging along for the ride. By the end of the movie, I was like, what did you add to the story? I felt like he didn't have to be in the movie at all. It had that awkward humor that the previous Transformers movies had. I mean, that being said, there is humor in this movie that made me laugh, but a good chunk of it did not. That to me is a thing that deducts a couple points here. However, I will say this, since this movie takes place in the 80s, there is 80s nostalgia galore here. From the culture you see in San Francisco in the 80s to the choice of wardrobe that Haley Steinfeld chooses to wear. But of course, the biggest 80s throwback in this movie is the music. I don't think anyone's gonna deny that. I was wondering, I was like, Dario Marianelli's doing the score because, you know, it's Travis Knight. Dario Marianelli also did the music for Kubo and the Two Strings. But why am I not hearing anything about an official score release for this movie? Like, why am I going on iTunes and not seeing the Bumblebee soundtrack? It's because all the 80s songs in this movie outdo the score. You got Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, you have Take On Me by Aha. All those 80s classics, like, within the first 20 minutes of the movie, I swear I could have heard like 10 80s songs. It's uncanny. And one thing I noticed, the score sometimes goes along with the songs that are playing, which I love it when the score does that, because it just amplifies the song. It just makes it sound cooler. There's even a throwback to the early Transformers cartoons. I've still never seen the early Transformers cartoons, but I know a couple songs that were from the original Transformers cartoons, and one of them came in this movie at the perfect moment, and I loved it. And if you know what it is, then you'll know it when you hear it in this movie, and you'll love it. It's got my seal of approval. So in the end, Bumblebee was really good. Who knew all it would take was for Michael Bay to step down from the director's chair? Alright, everyone knew that. The main characters are really good. Haley Steinfeld does a great job. Bumblebee is very likable again. You feel the connection between the two, which is really important. John Cena does a great job as Kent Mansley. Agent Burns is his character's name here. The supporting characters could have had a little less of that awkward humor and could have actually supported the story. But for Bumblebee, I will say, go see this movie while it's in theaters. Also, Haley Steinfeld's song that she did for this movie, Back to Life, is awesome. I've been listening to it for a while, but there's a better version of it in this movie that plays during the credits. It has more of a beat. I was grooving in my seat to it. I do want to see where the movies go from here because you know there's going to be more. But I don't know where it's going to go. Is it going to be a Bumblebee sequel? Or if you ask me, I want an Optimus Prime movie. I know Optimus Prime has gotten a lot of spotlight in the Transformers films, but come on, you know we want it too. An Optimus Prime movie. Think about it. Also on my wish list, I want to see a movie about how Cybertron fell in the first place, because I don't really know. I'm not nostalgically attached to Transformers. I never watched the cartoons growing up. I'm sure there's a storyline out there somewhere about how Cybertron fell, but I'd rather see it in movie form. So Bumblebee, have you seen it yet? What did you think about it? And where do you want this franchise to go from here? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.